Hello Wolfpack, general market update today looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin dominance and the stock market, the SPX. So we'll get right into it. We can look on the 4-hourly chart here on Bitcoin. We're just heading, pretty clearly in an upwards trend, right? We've been upwards trending from September 30th all the way to the current date at October 18th, and we've just been going absolutely ballistic. We've raised up roughly 55% in about 3 weeks. So look, what can you say about that, really? I mean, every correction we've had, as you can see here in the shorter term, if you zoom in, every correction we've had, and we've had a couple of corrections, right? We've had two major corrections. Well, I say major, they're actually very minor corrections. We had a little flash correction here, and we had a little flash correction here. But the point is, every correction we've had has literally lasted less than a day. Right, so the point is, there simply are not enough sellers, there simply are not enough bears to sustain any correction at the current given moment in time. Do I think that will be the case for the rest of Q4 until all-time highs and, for this cycle on Bitcoin? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we are going to see an actual correction, and that's what this video is targeted towards. When are we going to be seeing that actual correction on Bitcoin and across the general market? Well, we'll speak about that in a second, but the point is we are in a very strong upwards trend. We can actually see as well that consistently throughout this entire move upwards, we have consistently held the pink line, the 26 SMA, aside from just one drop below it, and we're continuing to hold that. We're actually seeing a bullish MACD cross incoming within the next couple of days as well, possibly within the next day, which would probably propel us up to our all-time high here at around 65k. So, if we do see that MACD cross, and given the fact that we have maintained support at this 60k region, we should be seeing our all-time high within the next few days here on Bitcoin. That's my personal price prediction for Bitcoin. If we look at the one-day chart, very similar, strong upwards trend. We can bring up the Bollinger Bands, and we can see, however, that, we're in a strong upwards trend for sure, but we have been on the higher side of this Bollinger Band for a long time, right? A long time. And we can start to see actually that the top of the band is curving towards us. Now, what this means, right? What this means is that generally, if you are on the top, resting on the top area of the Bollinger Band for a long period of time, a correction is near, right? Every single time we've seen this, a correction has occurred, right? We saw long period of time here, we corrected downwards. Long period of time here, we corrected downwards to the bottom. Long period of time here, corrected downwards to the bottom. And even here from July to September, a long period of time here, we corrected downwards to the bottom. The question is not whether we will correct to the bottom of the band, because we will do that before January, right? We're not just going to stay on the top of this band and continue in an upwards trend until December 27th. That's not how the market works, right? We have to correct at some point. The question is when we will do that. And we'll look at that in a second again. What we can see that is bullish on Bitcoin, though, is the fact that we have closed a weekly candle at our highest point ever historically, right? And that is above 60k. So we closed the weekly candle above 60k, which is one of the reasons why I think we are going to be reaching all-time highs before we actually correct substantially on Bitcoin. We can see on the Bitcoin index, and this is basically a price chart going over the entire history of Bitcoin. We can see from the 4-year cycle theory, we've mapped it out perfectly. Every Q4, which is starting at this red dotted line in bull markets, we have seen gains that are exponential. We've gone over this chart in the past, but essentially, if we dub down the gains from each cycle by 54% and add 14 days to go over diminishing returns and lengthening cycles, we can see that this cycle we should be reaching an all-time high of around 113k on Bitcoin, and we have Q4 marked out here. We can see we've already made progress towards that point, right? 113k on Bitcoin by December 27th. That is the prediction for Bitcoin according to my 4-year cycle theory calculations. And we're making good, we're tracking towards that quite well. As you can see, 3 strong green weekly candles heading towards that direction. We're on a pretty good trajectory to make that point. And even after a correction, which I do expect to see on Bitcoin, I still think we're going to make it to that region. We can see on Ethereum, very similar to Bitcoin, but what is interesting on Ethereum is we do have this inverted head and shoulders pattern here that is playing out to the upside, and hence should be breaking this resistance zone that we've formed here at around 4k, right? Head shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern typically break the neckline to the upside, and if we actually measure this move from the bottom of the head to the top of the left shoulder, we can see that we should be moving past this neckline towards a price point of around 5,300 on Ethereum. The time frame is uncertain since it is on the daily chart. I would say within the next month or so, but 5,300 Ethereum is pretty clear that Ethereum is bullish, just like Bitcoin. We are, however, on the top layer of this Bollinger Band, so we will be correcting at some point. Hopefully, we can get over 4K before that correction happens, because if we get over 4K before that correction happens, and possibly over all-time highs, we can correct back down to 4K, retest the neckline, and then head back upwards on the Ethereum chart. So, you know, ideally, same thing for Bitcoin, right? Ideally, before we have that correction, we can get over the all-time high and then flip it with the correction and then head upwards again. That would be the ideal scenario. As for the SPX and as for the stock market, the reason I'm bringing it up is because obviously there is the Evergrande situation and the stock market was looking fragile for a little bit, but then again, the stock markets look fragile for months, right? This is clearly in an upwards trend, and that is because the government, the Fed, whatever you want to say, would rather kill the US dollar than have the stock market drop. They're printing, investing all that money into the stock market to keep the stocks up, and the rich essentially get richer while the poor get poorer, right? That's the whole system. That's why we're in crypto. We don't like that system. But, you know, essentially it's working pretty well right now, and we want it to maintain, as selfish as it may be, for at least a little bit until the crypto market cools down, because if the stock market crashes, the crypto market will crash. That's just as simple as that. But we are seeing a lovely bounce off the 20-week SMA on the weekly chart. So that's good to see, you know, as long as that can sustain until late January, the end of the bull market. We literally just have to make it to around this point, and then we're good to go. If you want to say on Bitcoin, we only have to make it to around here, so we should be okay on the stock market as well. So that's good to see. On the Bitcoin dominance chart, we're tracking towards what we're expecting, right? Tracking quite well. Pump up in Q4, and as January comes along, we drop down. That's our expectation. That's what's happened in previous cycles, especially in 2017. Basically, what it means is that as Bitcoin makes its move up to new all-time highs, you know, the Bitcoin dominance pair goes up significantly, and then, you know, when Bitcoin tops out and Bitcoin moves sideways, altcoins have their time to shine in about a month-long period in January, and that's when Bitcoin dominance drops significantly. Past this point, we'll be expecting an upwards trend. Now, I've covered this multiple times in previous videos, so I'm not going to get too much into it. If you want to see it, go and check out my money flow video or my altcoin season simplified video. I've done them both in the last couple of weeks. As for when the correction will come on Bitcoin, now, this is an interesting question, right? As for when the correction will come on Bitcoin, all we need to do is look at what has happened historically, right? Because we have actually, and people don't like to do this for some reason. I don't know why people don't like to do this, but crypto is very clearly a cyclical moving market, right? Every cycle is the same. It's the same every cycle. Whether it's a double peak or a single peak, that doesn't matter. But the point is, Q4 we go up, right? And Q4 we barely correct, but we do correct every single cycle in Q4. If we go to the daily chart, we can see when that correction happened last time. It seems ridiculous to do. It seems like, oh well, you know, this time's different to last time. Well, actually, it's not different to last time at all, because this is a cyclical market, as I've just said. It plays out the same every single time. The reason why you think it doesn't play out the same every single time is because of emotions, right? Your emotions kind of convince you that it's different, but in reality, it's actually exactly the same. And in the last bull market, what we did see is we saw from mid-October. Now, this is interesting, right? I don't know if this is going to play out, but from mid-October, we saw some sort of sideways trend. So that would suggest that from now on, we'd be sideways trending. We'd pump over all-time highs, and then we'd have a correction in early to mid-November, right? So that could materialize into something like what I'm about to explain. We hover around the 60K region for a bit. We pump over all-time highs in late October in the next couple of weeks, and then in early to mid-November, we see our last final correction. That makes sense, right? That makes sense to me. I think that could work. And keep in mind, this correction only lasted 4 days. So it still is in line with the fact that we don't have much bears at the moment. But what I'm looking at and why I think this could be the case is because, and my supporting evidence for it is the fact that we have retested this bull market support band. We probably will not retest this bull market support band ever again. But what we would expect to see, and right, this is what we would expect to see, is Bitcoin correcting, but never touching this bull market support band again in this cycle. So if the bull market support band is hovering like this, we wouldn't correct to that region, right? So let's draw that again. So right now, if we were to correct, we'd correct down to here and head upwards. If we touch the bull market support band again, or if we drop below it again, that is bad news for Bitcoin. So as long as we stay above that bull market support band, we're in the clear. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.